Now, I just said in my last video, wait until they start getting into the fraud in California, New York, and all the other Democratic states, and then right on cue, CBS hit us with this news.
A CBS News investigation found an industry ripe for fraud, especially in California. Companies accused of overbilling, real patients denied care, and it's costing hundreds of millions of taxpayer dollars. It's the taxpayer-funded system that's supposed to get you through your final days. Hospice care to help those who are dying and their families.
Now, it was no great feat of prophecy to predict that there was going to be all this fraud in these Democratic states. All that was really necessary was a tiny bit of common sense. And no matter how many times people on the right, or Republicans, or conservatives, or people that just don't agree with the left, and because they use common sense, no matter how many times we are right, still, every single time, we're like, hey, this is going to happen, this is going on right now. Democrats will be like, you have no proof, you're a conspiracy theorist. And every time, we're proven right. Like, it's almost hard to be right this often.
CBS News reached out to the almost 60 hospices that have 5 or more flags. Many numbers were disconnected or went straight to voicemail. Representatives at some others denied any fraud and said they run legitimate hospices with real patients.
Does this sound familiar to anybody? Oh, right. This is exactly what Nick Shirley did in Minneapolis a few months ago. And they called him a creep and a weirdo and this, that, and every other thing. But now here we have CBS doing it. Oh, right. This is actual journalism. This is actual on-the-ground journalism. It's cool when CBS does it, but when an independent journalist on the internet does it, when a young man takes the reins and does it, well, he's a weirdo and a creep and blah, 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 this and that, every other thing. Can you explain that to me, leftist?
I was in treatment as physical therapy, simply because I had kind of an injury on the pickleball court. The administrator at the office was like, they're not going to pay any of your claims. And I was shocked. They said, you're in hospice. And I said, what? What are you talking about?
Although with this situation, we're only in the hundreds of millions as opposed to 9 to 18 billion like in Minneapolis with the child care fraud. This is almost worse, even if that number never reaches as high. Because as far as we know in Minneapolis, actual kids weren't being denied, actual parents' families weren't being denied child care services because of all this fraud that was going on. However, in this situation, they are legitimately stealing people's identities in order to generate these claims fraudulently, thus denying actual people that need help, that pay for insurance, that pay their taxes. These people that have done things right all their life now being denied the services they are actually entitled to because of this fraud. And of course, a Democratic state. I can't wait to see how much of this money flowed into the DNC or Gavin Newsom's coffers.
Sheila Clark, a hospice patient advocate, took us to what she described as the ground zero for hospice fraud, a 3-mile stretch of Los Angeles that's home to nearly 500 hospice company offices.
There's one hospice here that hits all 6 of California's red flags of possible fraud.
Well, there's no hospice there.
Legal office.
Yeah.
With ton of mail just sitting there.
Yeah, look at this.
This agency, VML, hit every fraud indicator in our analysis and billed Medicare roughly $49,000 per patient, about 3.5 times the national average.
Now you might be asking, Ralph, why would you assume that any of this money was flowing to the DNC? And my answer to that would be, well, how do you have such a large concentration of these fraudulent businesses, whether they be childcare, hospice care, whatever it is, and not be able to police this, you know? I mean, the auditors, investigators, whatever they are called by the state that are supposed to track these things and keep them in order, well, they've only got a 3-mile radius. They've got a small chunk of the city in which they can easily go from facility or whatever, office to office, and check and do their audits. But it's allowed to go on, seemingly unabated. If there were this many drug dealers in a single area, well, the cops would be down there busting people every day. But for some reason, when it's some sort of financial crime, when there's a lot of money switching hands, for some reason in democratic states that's just allowed to go on. Now, you can't tell me that this isn't being caught without some complacency in the offices of the people that are in charge of catching these fraudsters. Again, it's just common sense.
When we called, no one answered.
The mailbox is full and cannot accept any messages at this time.
The state of California increased monitoring of the hospice industry 4 years ago, identifying the hallmarks of fraud. Fortuna has 2 of them, and it's hardly alone. CBS News analyzed every hospice licensed in LA County, more than 1,700, and checked for the same warning signs the state used, like multiple hospices packed into one building, or caregivers whose patients, supposedly at death's door, are discharged alive. 3 years after the state crackdown, which included a moratorium on new hospice licenses, our investigation found more than 40% of agencies still show at least 3 of these state-defined indicators of potential fraud.
Seriously, if the Democratic Party, if the people running these states aren't complacent in this fraud, aren't getting paid off of it, why is it that we're having to find out about it and it's having to be addressed by media instead of the government agencies that are actually responsible for policing these sorts of things? I'm not saying there aren't corrupt Republicans, but the Democratic Party has clearly just been robbing taxpayers blind for who knows how long at this time. And on top of all that fraud that they're committing, they're also continuously raising taxes on the residents of their states, essentially making them into tax slaves. I don't understand how anybody has enough cognitive dissonance to keep on supporting these people. All the evidence is right there in front of us. It's blatant. They're doing it right in our face and expecting us to just shrug it off, or I don't know, put our head in the sand and turn on our TV and watch Netflix or whatever it may be. Just, consume product, get excited for next product type shit, We got to do something about this. Again, I'm not saying there aren't corrupt Republicans too, but it is very clearly weighted to one side, very disproportionately, to the tune of billions of dollars. So, I don't know. If you're complaining about, Trump spending on the war in Iran or Venezuela, oh my God, he's spending billions of dollars with bombs and blah, 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 blah. But you're okay with the United States taxpayer just being robbed blind so that people that didn't put in the work can live lavish lives, you can get fucked.